up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders and closet swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Hope you guys are doing better than any of the banks and financials today. We got Agnes in the house. Good morning, Alex. Babbitt is with us. We got Bill. Good morning, Brian. Cedric's in the house. Good morning, David. We got Eric, Fayaz, Frank B, Gina, Jenny, Jay. All the J's are here. We got Jennifer. We got Joe. Kevin, good morning. Kyle, what is happening? Michael's in the house. Patrick, good morning. Rick, Shane, Shaniqua is with us. We got Tony, Win. Yes, sir. All my peeps in YouTube land. Hope you guys are doing absolutely incredible. You guys are piling in as you do so. Let's see if we can get TradingView up and running. So a little bit of a down day. We did have, well, at least at pre-market so far, we do have banks that reported today. So let's take a quick look first, actually, at the XLF. That's the financial ETF. So banks have been relatively strong, kind of almost a safety play in the strange, weird environment, at least as of late. Beautiful looking hammer on XLF not too long ago, and we've done nothing but rip, no pullbacks, nothing like that. This should be a little bit of a retest. So we did have a little indecision. I would expect a little retest if this thing wants to open a little bit higher. I'm not day trading this one. I'm just kind of using this one to take a look at the financial sector as a whole, as a lot of banks reported today. So this one, I would expect maybe a little bit of rally. Maybe some of the banks got oversold a little bit on some of those earnings. Maybe we get a candle or two that's green, and then maybe we'll look to kind of look for some kind of short there. But we'll take a look at the individual banks in a second. The SPY, longer term picture. We do know that we hit a pretty critical resistance, very big area, kind of worried about. Does this mean that ultimately we, let me see if I can move this thing, make it easier. There we go. Does that mean that we nosedive down and just straight plummet? Or is it more likely that we get some kind of a pullback in this? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Right now, though, I can't expect this is happening. Not yet. I need a little bit more for that. But you did have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row, essentially just moving higher, looking for maybe a little bit of a pullback. That would be a sweet little fib on the chart to, not fib, but sweet little VPOC on the chart to get a lot closer to that 10 EMA. That's somewhere hanging out around 389.66. So at the open, at least for now, we're at 393.06. Tony says, I was wondering why there was no sound. Didn't realize I hadn't turned on the speakers. That's okay. I get, sometimes I don't even turn on the mic. So don't blame yourself originally. I would assume my fault first. But yeah, a little bit of next support, at least. Actually right where we are now. So if we do break this little level pre-market, next little mini stop 391, and then probably looking for 389. Being the fact that we are still kind of sitting at that support again, maybe we get a little bit of a bounce. But let's cut this one into a 4-hour chart. We'll start going to a little bit more time frames just to look at volume. Here's our 4-hour chart. A little bit of a indecision high wave at open near the lows of yesterday. Still, again, hanging into that little bit of some kind of support that we're in now. We do have that 10 EMA approaching us very quickly. And if we are going to play, if we were looking at this chart and saying, yeah, this is a almost determining gaps of this, you're gonna look at this going, it's a little bearish at open. Anybody here that bought, they're trapped. End of the day, we had a little bit of a run, so you do have some people trapped there as well. So it's gonna be a little pressure. It's going to, I think, honestly, be a very interesting open. So probably wait a couple minutes. If I think we kind of just take a reversal pattern after the first couple minutes, especially if it's bullish. If it's bullish, I'd like to probably short and fade. but I'm not expecting a quick little sell-off out of the gates right away, at least. And I do think buy the dip mentality is still in the market. We've seen that quite a lot recently. If we look at a wave count on either on the cues, either this is a 1, 2, this is a 3, this pullback is a 4 that we're in, and we push one new high or double top. That's if this is anywhere near correct, which I don't know. What I would suspect is this is all some type of a 3. This was a 4. This is a 5. I think this is a 2. That's a 1. And then I think this is some type of a 1 breakout, pullback, and maybe something like that. We continue to buy the dip, at least for now. And again, I don't really see anything else. I mean, now that we got the CPI under wraps, we know inflation is heading in the right direction. Fed might have a little bit of control over it. I think buy the dippers are probably still in the market for a little bit. And I think this is a dip that we could get bought. I don't know about here. I would like to see this thing drop a little bit further. A really nice place to do that would be 271.90 if we get down there. But we are at, again, a little bit gapping into a little bit of some kind of support. So even though this is a gap and go bearish, still inside day candle, could get a little choppy. And if we do get bought up, I am now looking to reverse that and take that one lower. Tesla. Matt R says, we look at Tesla. Yep. Here's a trade that we were looking at in the afternoon room yesterday. And I said, I don't mind this trade. We close up here. We get a little bit of potential pullback, and target for this one, not that difficult to hit. Stops would be below this candle. This is where I definitely do not want this trade to go. And then we said, all right, you know what? We have a night to sleep on it. See where this market opens. If this thing gaps down, we don't put the trade in. If it gaps up higher, because then that would be a retest on yesterday's candle, right? So if we do gap up, green candle, even if we open up at, I don't know, 128, we expect some kind of a fade. Great. And then we'll take the trade. So we never entered this trade, never placed it. And this one will not be a trade that we do place for now. We'll have to wait, see what happens. But it was looking decent, and I do think there's probably some bulls trapped in on this one. Let me delete these lines real quick. Delete those lines. And the next spot, I immediately out of the gate, I'm going to think there's going to be some people trapped on this trade. Okay, volume, nothing crazy, but definitely increased volume on this candle, and you have a nice little high wave. All of that has been buying into the close of yesterday. Every single person there's trapped. We trapped everybody here. Those 2 days, they've already probably cleared out positions, and target for this one becomes 113.11. Tesla is down from 2 reasons. One, I think they had a couple downgrades. Wells Fargo was one of them. I don't know if it was JP Morgan or Bank of America, but there was one more downgrade from Tesla. And then there's also reports that they put out saying, or Tesla put out saying, we're lowering the price of the Teslas in the US and Asia markets. Previously, it was just the Asia markets. So now that little spin on the US markets, additional information. And again, the question is why, right? People are probably more concerned. Is there demand for Tesla still? Right. And I think that's the biggest question on people's minds. And obviously, with all the recent negative press into Tesla, you just add fuel to the fire. And I think there's some people definitely struggle bus worried. But look for about 113.10. Again, I don't know if I want to play bullish or bearish out of the gate. I much prefer if this thing runs up short somewhere around 120.02. And if this thing drops lower, look for some kind of a long, potentially around 113. If not, this is also an untested VPOC. Kind of. Yeah, I'd probably still stick with the 113. So somewhere around that 113. Worst case, maybe we look for something in the 110.46 zone, but That kind of gapped down, and that was also the retest. We did hit that one already. So probably about that 113 is at least my first look on testing. What was the day Tesla lowered price in? I don't remember the exact day. I believe it was last week, toward the end of the week, probably Thursday, Friday. That could have been actually on this day, potentially. This is Friday. New gap down, potentially on that news, and then we ran up. So if the market's going to play like that, I don't think that candle happens because now we also have implied pressure from the rest of the market. But yeah, I believe it was that Friday, probably. Dustin says, "Hey, have we used the 10 EMA on banks?" I have personally not. Banks like Bank of America, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo. I have not used the 10 EMA on those. I don't typically trade them as much. Bank of America, I used to trade a decent amount. It is a little bit tight. It's a little bit tougher to trade based on smaller range that it has. If I was to trade any bank, Wells Fargo, I've traded, and for some reason they're actually a little decent to trade. Let's look at some of the banks. I know BAC has just been a little. Usually, it's very, very tight on spreads. Wells Fargo does give me a little bit more range, and then my preferred bank to trade would be JP Morgan. But I would assume, especially with the volatility that's going to come into the banks today, the fact that we are trapping a lot of people, probably 10 EMA would be decent because again, it's momentum play, and if you are catching any type of momentum, I think these things have enough room to rally and get some more people because they are all going to be heavily watched today. So at least for today, I would imagine 10 EMA could work decent. All right, so here's again Wells Fargo, lots of banks, safety plays. We looked at that on the XLF. There's that same little hammer, cute little run up, every single good line of support right here. The one problem with these banks right now, at least for Wells Fargo, we are at some kind of support. So we have a retest gap at some kind of support. First initial target, I probably look to peel some shares off if you are taking this one. That's 41.82. And then final target as close as you possibly get to 42.31. So we have some room, some range, and we might be able to play the fade on this one. I would actually, oddly enough, be looking for a fade higher on Wells Fargo as opposed to just absolutely. Let's do one more thing. Let's look at the weekly chart as well. An entire week clapped, but still at that little support, indecision, about 50% of that big old high wave candle. And yeah, for me, I'd probably be looking for actually a fade higher. Oddly enough, JP Morgan, I think we'll find some bids on these things. JP Morgan closed at 139.49. Pre-market, at least where it says now, 135.86. This one, I'd probably give it a little bit more time before I want to jump in. So let's see if we get a pullback maybe to about 135.09. I'll set the alarm for that. And alert, good. Beautiful. So once that alert goes off, we'll be able to zone in, tune in a little bit more to this one. Again, same thing. Retest gap. Let's do a quick little fib on this one too, just to see if we can get a 50% or 618 retracement as well. That would take us to. So where we set the alert for is only really the 38. Still a decent bounce spot. Can't ask for too much there. And then one lower, we have somewhere around the next spot I'll set an alert for is probably about 134.24. As the second option to try to fade this thing. I do expect probably a little bit of people freaking out at open, but for the most part, I think some of these financials, they do find bids, and we'll see what happens. JP Morgan, move higher on the lists. In worst case, we know some of these guys are definitely going to be heavily watched today for sure. All right, we got Disney. Also, if you guys have any other tickers, you guys can throw it in. Otherwise, I'm just going to run through the list. So if there's any other cute little gaps out there, Agnes says GM, so we'll kick it off with that one. Yeah. While this I think could be a almost a sympathy play from Tesla in a weird way. So we have, I would imagine Ford's probably gapping down too. I mean, we have the entire market, but usually when Tesla stock goes down, that's probably in some way good for General Motors. However, if Tesla's lowering prices, yes, that cuts into all the margins of Tesla, but that's also going to bring in more competition for people that might be considering Tesla over a GM. So we'll see what happens, but that's probably a little bit of the added pressure here. We do have that 10 EMA approaching very soon. I don't see really too much more room to run down before things start getting scarier. So if we get somewhere around 35.99, that would be an interesting spot to at least look and see if we can get some kind of a bid. Otherwise, this is a gap and go. It's definitely clearing a lot of 1, 2, almost 3 candles. So we got 2.5 days of bulls trapped. I'm just watching out for that little bit of support that potentially could be coming in, as well as that 10 EMA that's kind of still creeping up. So we never really had any pullback from this run. And I think there's definitely some people like, shoot, I missed it. Mark is going to give me another one. All right. L Chuck says, about how many tickers do you keep on your list? I don't. Right now, I think there's about 78, but I don't look at them all day. For the most part, the ones that I like, 5 or 6, which I'll try to kind of throw up to the top just so I can rotate through quickly. Otherwise, all the other ones are something that we've looked at, had good momentum, interesting trade setups, and I'll just kind of scroll through that throughout the day. But yeah, for the most part, I try to narrow it down really to about 1 or 2 stocks. But on the list, probably about 5, 6 is what I'm really, really looking or interested in trading. We got, please look at Walmart. We'll look at Delta. Okay, we'll take a look at both of those. Since I already pre-clicked CRM, we'll take a look at this one first. A little bit of support, nothing crazy there. Let's move on to yours. Walmart. The store that sells walls. Retest gap. Look for that little bit of a boost. First little stop to look for trying to catch this one to go short. I do like the fact that we have untested VPOCs down here below. It's just not a lot of room. That's the only thing for me. So you're going to, if you do want to short this one, you have to short high. The fact that we're breaking below that bigger candle, definitely trapping some people. So if we get some initial reaction, some people coming in to buy, somewhere around 144.63 would be decent. And then I almost want to be out of this thing by 143.35. For the most part, at least I'd probably shave at least 50 to 60% of my shares off the table, and then maybe we get down to like 142.64, ride out the rest, lower stops, something like that. But very, very congested, and to the lower side at this point at open, unless something crazy happens in the market and we can really break down that little consolidation and structure, it's not going to give us that much room to play. Where I think even some of the financials might be a little bit stronger of a play, have a wider range. Delta, same thing. So these gaps they're decent, right? We're definitely gap and go. Great volume yesterday coming in. When's their earnings? Did this happen? Is that today? So they reported earnings too. Okay, I didn't even know they're coming out with earnings. Yeah. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullish days in a row. That little dotted line is very extremely strong. A VPOC over a longer time frame. We do have a lot of people getting trapped at open on this one. My biggest concern, 10 EMA is coming in. Is that enough to hold it? I don't know. More or less, I'd probably be looking for, and then we have a previous support that we're in too. We use this spot 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if I want to go short on this one at open. Not yet. This is going to be a tough one. There's just a lot of bounce spots that we could get to the downside. And we are gapping down into a decently major support. So this would not be my short. I would let it go if this thing just drops. Otherwise, I'd actually probably be looking to play it off support. So maybe one red candle. This is probably the best strategy I could do on something like this at this location. One red candle down, entries, stops, and that's probably how I have to play it. Some kind of a fade, even though it's a gap and go. I just don't like it at the support. Or the other thing too is don't do anything until it gets back up into this range or this range, which is like 39.18. So if it does get back there, that's going to be a spot to look now for a little bit of a better short opportunity. This way we're shorting a lot higher. But it's a tough range. I'd have to see this thing actually break down. Maybe we can get something, but then again, you have this 10 EMA on a daily right in front of us. Could get a little bid off of that as well. Forward guidance not looking good. I mean, they should have known that when they got into the airline business. How's it ever look good? AAL. I mean, they're at airlines are at the mercy of everything. Do people want to travel? Well, not if there's COVID floating around and everything's closed. Okay. How much could our margins be? We don't know because gas prices go wild. Okay. How can we squeeze dollars? Well, let's start weighing luggage and make sure that we could charge for every extra pound over 50. Okay, that seems good. Is that going to delight people? No. What if it snows? Could we still? No. Okay. Seems like a challenge. seems like a tough business. AAL actually might be a better play than Delta. Still gap and go. Not quite outside of the range from yesterday. Huge gap up. Not really retested. And then if we find weakness in the airlines, I'd probably, if we do want to short, again, I'd still kind of want this thing to retrace a little bit. We are still at a decent little support. But on this one, if we could get this breakdown, I think our room to the downside is a little bit better. So maybe 50% of that candle, somewhere around maybe 1640, and then play the fade. That would at least get me a little bit higher. I know where my stops have to be. And that's probably how I'd play that one. So AAL, I kind of do like a little bit better than Delta. I would imagine they move very similar. I just think AAL probably has a little bit of a wider range. All right, did I miss any tickers so far? All good. Wells Fargo. Yep, took a look at that one. All right, let's go to PayPal. See how PayPal and Square, now that some of these banks are getting beat over the head. I don't see. Let me get this thing off my charts. There we go. You want to look at Unity Software? All right. We'll take a look at that too. So PayPal. Zoom in. A little bit of a gap and go as well, kind of sitting at support, nothing too crazy there. Square, we know there was a little bit of a run up in Square, and I think it struggled. Oh, struggled, came right back. Interesting little hammer. Definitely some bulls in this one. Everything's above that 10 EMA too. Like right at it. But this one actually has some more resistance now at the top. So somewhere around $70.20, $70.25. Should be some kind of resistance if this thing does want to continue to fade. I just don't know how weak we actually are right now. There's so much by the dip, and if financials do rally at open, that's going to be a very interesting move. Unity Software. Inside candle for now, technically. Last time we got down to 29.56. That's where the bulls started to buy this thing up. That was a pretty nice retest spot. Wish it would have went slightly lower. So probably looking for like 28.67. Just kind of hanging out, I think, for right now. Would be a decent candle if we get a bid above probably 31.91. But again, here's our bigger volume, 33.98. So that's the next spot. Probably targets, if anything. Otherwise, I don't really have any real levels to go off of on this one. I'm kind of in no man's land. All right. You know what I haven't looked at? Well, I've looked at this one, but Snapchat. Kind of want to look at Snappy. All right. NVIDIA, nothing crazy, just inside day there. So basically airlines and financials are the ones for us to focus on at open, kind of see what ranges, and Tesla as well. Tesla, GM could be interesting. Snapchat, not really doing anything. Airbnb, now that you got some of the airlines getting beat up, does that affect any of the travel? Not too much. Slight little gap down inside day. Amazon, the Amazonia, a little bit of a gap down. Technically, that's a retest gap. Probably should run that one up a little bit, and then fade it back down somewhere around 95.03. We got Boeing. Boeing, don't give a poop. Kind of hanging out to the top, right at that very, very big resistance. Again, probably still a decent spot to look to sell cover calls. I'd sell anything above 220 would be my spot to look for this one. Obviously, this thing's been on an absolute tear, but maybe if the airlines are finding a little bit of weakness, that does hurt Boeing a little bit. I would assume you still got a lot of defense built into Boeing too, though. AMD, little bit of a gap and go. That's interesting. We could probably fill that gap. So we have a gap and go, still technically inside day, and wouldn't look for too much. Probably max is 68.70. That's where the bids probably start to come in on that one. Roblo. Roblo. Again, inside candles, still technically gap and go. What about everybody sell one of these, sell some shares yesterday, took that run up. Nice play, but he's out. Pre-market kind of flat on that one. Uber, take a look at Meta as well. Nothing crazy, really just the financials, airlines and Tesla's the only thing I'm really seeing that I wouldn't mind focusing on at open. We got another one in the chat for VTRS. That's an inside day too. VTRS. Yeah, it looks like it's got a little obviously last few days, a little bit of weakness in it. This to me looks like we're probably in a wave 4, and this is also we're not gapping down that much, so I would expect some kind of retest. This little wick probably hit that 50%. What I would be looking for in a longer term picture is one more bounce, double top, something like that, and then we roll. But this is technically should get bought up at open, I would assume, just for a little bit. Nothing. I mean, it's only a 5-cent little dip. We're still inside candle as well, kind of maintaining a decent support level too. So before we get to here, which is I think where we get to eventually, and that's probably about $11. We would probably need one more push higher in a longer term picture. So next couple days, see if this thing does get any kind of bid, run it up. Anybody that wished they would have took profits would have the opportunity to do so. And then we start to fade. But I only got like 17 seconds left. Time flies when you're having fun. Everybody in YouTube land, keep in mind, we do have free week. Make sure you guys sign up for that. That is the 23rd to the 27th. Also, make sure you share that link. Tell your friends about it. We'd love to see all of you guys in the chat. Hang out and trade with us all day. Otherwise, you guys are incredible. Make sure on the way out, you guys hit that thumbs up button. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Make sure you guys are in touch with all of the content that we do put out almost on a daily basis. You guys are incredible. Have a great weekend. Be safe trading, and we will catch you guys.